Hello, fictional. Welcome to the crossover What Ifs. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Anko, Yugao and Kurenai? Part 4. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the Heartless. After a few hours of training to be the sage for the White Tigers, the Tigers decide to let Naruto have the rest of the day to relax, and as Naruto was exiting the training room when he sees Rukia, and he goes over to her and say I have her to say it is very nice to finally meet you Rukia. And it is nice to meet you Rukia said. I know what you want to ask so ask away Naruto said. Tifa told me what happened, but I have to know is Ichigo really gone, Rukia asked. That's right he is, and I can prove it Naruto said then he put a fist out and Rukia did the same and the moment her fist hits Naruto's both their visions went dark. Inside Naruto's mindscape inner world. When both Naruto and Rukia woke up in a wide open field with what looked like a mansion in the middle of it then Naruto turns to Rukia and said come on there is someone that you have to meet then they both headed to the house. As the duo was approaching the house the door opened and the albino version of Naruto walks out and looks at Rukia and said with a sad look hello Rukia it's nice to meet you again. So you're Ichigo's sword spurt Rukia said. That I am well half if the power, but I am afraid that what Naruto and Tifa had told you is true Ichigo isn't with us and he dies protecting you and as well as Yuzu and Karen Shiro said. I see so what happens now Rukia asked with tears in her eyes. Unfortunately there is nothing we can do but all is not lost because Naruto here is basically Ichigo reborn Shiro said. What do you mean Rukia said. How about I answer that in the real world and have a bite to eat while we are at it Naruto said. Why not now Rukia asked. Because we are most likely on the floor out cold Naruto said. Oh right I see you have point there Rukia said then they both began to fade. As the duo was fading they heard Shiro say oi king you better treat her right. Don't worry I will Naruto said before fading completely. Shiro looks at where Naruto stood then said I know you will, but I still had to say it so that Ichigo can rest in peace within you then he went back into the house. Real world. As both Naruto Rukia woke up, they were both in the ground and when they got up Naruto turns to Rukia and said I will treat you to something to eat. If I didn't know any better, I would say that you are asking me out on a date Rukia said. It's nothing of the sort midget Naruto said making Rukia to freeze in shock. Once the shock was over Rukia turns to Naruto and said you almost sounded like Ichigo for a moment. Naruto laughed a bit before saying come on let's get something to eat then they headed to a nice little restaurant that sold ramen. When the duo got seated and placed their orders Rukia so how did you know about this restaurant? Well I was trained to be a sage for the White Tigers, they let me have a few 5-minute breaks and in that time Bachan and the others came talking to me and a few of them told me about this restaurant Naruto replied. I see well it is nice here Rukia said. I agree but let's talk about why we really are here Naruto said. Yes let's Rukia said then she gave Naruto her full attrition then asked what did Shiro mean when he said that thanks to you, Ichigo still lives. Well I am sure that you know about reincarnation right being Shinigami Naruto said asked. I do what does that have to do with it Rukia said asked. When I chatted with Shiro when I first met him, he told me what happened and that you Yuzu and Karen are still alive and I said that whether or not he finds me worthy I will the three of you as well, if he finds me worthy then it will be a form of reincarnation as I will be getting Ichigo's memories Naruto said. Rukia thinks about it then she said I guess you are right then they fell into a comfortable. As both Naruto and Rukia was eating their meal and they were halfway through their meal when they heard a male voice that Naruto knew say well there you are Gaki, I have been looking all over the place for you. That's just great he survived Naruto thought then he turned to face the man and said hey pervy sage how are you doing? Well but I have to ask where have you been as I was told that you were here Jiraiya said. Been around, but why are you on another world Naruto asked. So I can help you reach your potential like I always have the Toad Sage said. Okay so when was you going to teach me to be a sage learn how to use a sword Naruto asked. Jiraiya sweated a but before saying I was going to teach you them when I thought you was ready. I see so if I am not ready then how come I am learning to be a sage now as well as learning how to use a sword Naruto said before tilting his head a bit before thinking I wonder if there is a three-sword style. Shit what has he been up to and why didn't the toads tell me that they are teaching him Senjutsu Jiraiya thought then he said Naruto you have to stop that training at once the toads may have said that you are ready but you are not. There was a puff of smoke behind the Toad Sage, then Alyssa said oh, and what makes you think that we made the wrong call when we are teaching him to become a sage? Because I know the boy and I know he isn't ready for that sort of training, Jiraiya said without looking at the White Tiger. Alyssa glares at the old man, then gains a cat's equivalent to a mischievous smirk, then she said alright, then I guess I will just be off then she jumps off the table, then ran off. Now then what will you do Jiraiya said. I think I will leave that up to the summons now, please can you go, seeing as you are interrupting something here, Naruto said, then he gestured to Rukia. Oh, I am sorry I didn't see you there, Jiraiya said. It's okay, Rukia said. Now I am going to take my apprentice and have a chat with him, Jiraiya said. Before the two that was having a chance to reply, someone came into the restaurant and said, so this is what the summons said, that there was a nuisance in the restaurant. Everyone turns to see Tsunade and Kushina, then Naruto said, hey Kachan Bachan, what are you two doing here? Well, we were on our way to see if you was done with your training when we spotted this cub, and then she said that you was being bothered by an old man that smelled like a pervert, Kushina said, holding up Alyssa. Then she put the tiger down, who ran over to Naruto. Then she turned to Jiraiya and asked while glaring at him, so please tell me, why did you tell me that my baby was dead? Jiraiya started to sweat, then he said, I did it to protect you. From what exactly? Kushina asked with her hair started to move. You know what the live the Avijinch Kriki can be, Jiraiya said. You're right, I do, and that is why I was going to leave with him to train him to protect himself, as well as let people forget about the incident, Kushina said. As Jiraiya was thinking of an excuse, Tsunade said, are you sure it's not so you can look like a hero to your godson when you say that you will train him but don't? Now Haim, I will train the kid when I think he is ready, and as soon as I get Naruto to stop his training to be a sage, then I will let the toads know that I will be training the boy when I think he is ready, Jiraiya said. He is ready now and he will need all the power he can get so he can continue doing for 2 lifetimes, and he will make a great sage for the white tigers, Alyssa said. Please, there is no way that Naruto found one of the 4 scared beast summons, Jiraiya said. Oh, and what do you call me, Alyssa asked. The talking white tiger, that doesn't prove that they are real, Jiraiya stated. Then maybe I can prove to you that my can is real, Anko said, appearing out of thin air, shocking all of the shinobi. It is an honor to meet one of the scared beasts, Tsunade said. I am not surprised that you knew that there was a summoning scroll for us scared beasts, even if you think we are a myth, Anko said, then turns to face Jiraiya, then said, so what do you say now, Toad Sage? How did the Gaki find your scroll when there have been thousands of shinobis and Kunoichi spending their lives looking for them? Jiraiya asked. Simple, we the sacred beast look after the scrolls for the white tigers, dragons, phoenixes and the tortoises, and give a shinobi or Kunoichi keybearer, and they passed our test as well, Anko said. So how do you decide on who gets the keybearer, Kushina asked. One of 2 things, one is their choice, and the other is the nature, Anko said. Think I get you 4 each have an element, and you let the chakra's nature decide for you, and for instance if Naruto said he didn't want the white tiger summons, 2 wanted the tortoise, then you would let him, right? Tsunade said. Right, but he will have to pass that beast's test, Anko said. And what would happen if he failed the test, Kushina asked. Then we would ask again or wait until they want to sign, Anko said. I see, well that's good to know that you won't force them to sign, Tsunade said. So what was the test that you gave my boy, Kushina said. Well, I sorted let something play out to see what type of person Naruto was, Anko said. So what was it, Rukia asked, speaking up for the first time since the exchange began, then through if what Tifa and Shiro say is true, then he would have done something without hesitation. Well, it was while he was in the world that he was stranded in after opening a portal too big too quickly, and one lightsome was trying to kill someone as she was under a spell, and was about to jump into the sea during a storm, and Naruto just ran over to Anastasia without hesitation, and stopped her from jumping in, and when I told him that boy was, he pissed, Anko said. Damn right, Naruto said. Well, at least you saved the girl, that's a sweet boy, so did she give you a kiss, Kushina said. No she didn't, Naruto said. Oh, that's a shame, I wanted some grandbabies, Kushina said. Well, he does have a few people that seem to think he will be a great mate, Anko said. Oh, so do I have knocked some sense into you, Naruto, Kushina said. Then upon seeing the hurt look on Naruto's face she said, I am so sorry, I didn't mean it like that, but Naruto didn't say a word, just walk out of the restaurant, then she let out a defeated sigh, then she turns Jiraiya and said, you better get out of here, if you know what's good for you, then she left the restaurant with Tsunade and Rukia and Anko disappeared. Once outside, the red-headed woman glances at the ex-Shinigami and asks, so who are you, dear? I am Rukia Kichiki, Rukia said. So are one of the 3 people that my son will be looking for. I am Kushina Uzumaki, and I am Naruto's mother, if you can call me that, Kushina said. Of course you are, Tsunade said to Kushina, then she turns to Rukia, then said, well it's nice to meet Rukia, I am Tsunade Senju, and I am Naruto's grandmother figure. But you saw the look of hurt on Naruto, Kushina said. That might be true, but don't forget he has never had a playful hit from anyone well in this lifetime, and when he did remember his life as Ventus, the damage was already done, and it will take time for that damage to heal, Tsunade said. Kushina thinks about it, then said, you're properly right. So what all that and that about, Rukia asked while pointing to the 2 women, then points to the ramen restaurant. It's nothing dear, just someone I thought I could trust, Brokai, and because of that my baby boy grew up alone and hated, and from what some of the Anbu have told me before, and while he was in the academy, he was hunted down on a daily basis, Kushina said, with a tone that could break a heart. Now Kushina, it was just a slip of the tongue, and I am sure Naruto knows that, Tsunade said. Then after looking at Kushina she sighed, then said fine, we will find Naruto tomorrow. Then she turns to Rukia and asks, so what do you plan do now? Rukia turns to Tsunade, then asked, what do you mean? I mean, what do you plan to do now that your man is now basically someone else, Tsunade replied. Rukia opens her mouth to say something but closes it and thinks of an answer too. After a few seconds, she turns to Tsunade and said, I don't know, because in no Naruto isn't Ichigo, but there are times that I see Ichigo in Naruto, and I was thinking about pursuing a relationship with Naruto and see where it leads us, but no, I am thinking against it. May I ask why? Tsunade said. It's because how he grew up and I don't want to play with his feeling, Rukia said. Then tell him that you want to see how the relationship will be, seeing as he is Ichigo, Tsunade said. But he will hold it against me, won't he? Rukia asked. As long as you are honest with him from the start he won't, and here is a bit of advice, always be honest with him as he has had way too many betrayals, Tsunade said. I will think about it, but thanks for the advice, I needed it, Rukia said before leaving to go to wherever she was staying. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the heartless. A week has gone by, and Naruto with Kurama on his shoulders, and his team was standing at the world door, so they can head to the next world to help out and to find Ichigo's sister, when he said, alright, are you all ready to go? Just about, though your mother and Rukia said that they wanted to do something, Tifa answered. Do you know what? Naruto asked. Oh, they said that they wanted it to be a surprise, Tifa replied. Wonder what they are doing? Naruto asked. No one in particular, which got a shrug from everyone. Meanwhile, with Kushina and Rukia was packing a small bag when Kushina turns to Rukia and asks, so why are you doing this, Rukia, seeing as you are still grieving for the loss of Ichigo? I know, but right now I want to do something that will take my mind of Ichigo, and going with Naruto might do that, Rukia replied. I see, but you should know that running will not solve your problem, sooner or later you will have to sort it out, Kushina said with a sad look and regret in her tone. Rukia catches the tone and the facial expression and said, speaking from experience. Kushina nods, then said, I am, and because of that Naruto had to grow up without me around, and the first time we met was the day me met you. So I can ask you how he is, Rukia said. Kushina paused and looked at the former Shinigami and asked, so you are interested in Naruto? Rukia looks at Kushina and then looks away with guilt on her face before saying, I don't know if I like him, and if I do, I'm afraid that I will like, because he is basically the incarnation of my late boyfriend. Kushina went back to packing and asked, is that why you want to go with Naruto? It is because I want to get my feelings in order, Rukia answered. Well, at least you are being smart about this, Kushina said. Rukia smiled at this, then she said, thanks, and I was the brains of my relationship with Ichigo, and he was the brawn. Then once they were done packing, Kushina sealed her luggage, while Rukia they headed to meet Naruto and the others. As Rukia and Kushina reached the world door they see the team and walked up to them, and Kushina said, hi everyone, thanks you for waiting. Not a problem, Tifa said as everyone turned to face them, and they also noticed the bags. So what's with the bags, Rukia? Naruto asked. Isn't it obvious both me and Rukia are coming with you, Kushina said. Why though, Naruto asked. Well, for me it should be clear, I want to get to know my child, which I could for the past week as you was learning to become the sage of the white tiger, and that needs focus to master, and I can help you with your jutsus, Kushina replied. And I am coming to help sort my feeling out about you, and you need all the help you need to find Yuzu and Karen, Rukia answered. Marinette then faces Naruto and said, you know they do have a point, Naru. I know, Naruto said to Marinette, then he turns to his mother and Rukia and said, well, welcome to the team, now let's get going as we have 2 people to look for. Then the now group of 7 left the world. Once they were all on board the megaship and was leaving the world's orbit, Dika asked, greeting Naruto and team, where are we heading now? We don't know the names, but we do have a description of the world we need to get to, Jane said. Then may I have the description so I can look for the worlds that match the description, Dika said. Sure, Yen Sid said that one world is a sandy world and the other is on a forest-like world, Naruto said. I will look though the world database to find world that fit the description, and it will take me a few minutes, Dika said. Thanks, Dika, Naruto said as he leads his mother and Rukia to their rooms. When Naruto got back to the bridge, he saw the team around a console, so he walks up behind Marinette and asks, so what is the meeting about? Oh, you're here, Naruto, Marinette said, jumping a bit, then started to look him in his eyes, then gained a blush which didn't go unnoticed. Naruto sees the brunette blushing, then asked, are you okay, Marinette, your face is red. Marinette started to stammer her words which got the girls to giggle a bit, then Kurama said, oh, don't worry about her, kid, she is just fine. Okay, Naruto said before turning to his second in command and asked, so Tifa, why was you all around the console? Dika finished looking though the database, and now we are looking though Tifa replied. Okay, so what do we have to work with, Naruto said. We will start with the sandy worlds first, seeing as there is only 2 worlds, one is known as Agrabah and the other is the Pride Lands. Well, that will be somewhat easy looking for one of them, Naruto said. But as you know, when something seems easy, 2 things will happen: 1 it's not, and 2 something hard follow when we are done, Jane said. And I take it this case will be the latter, Naruto said. You're right, there are a few forest worlds not including deep jungle, Jane said. Alright, least hear them out, Naruto said. We have 5 jungle world. The first world we have the New World, then we have Arendelle, after that we have Corona, after that we have Louisiana, and lastly, we have Nottingham, Jane said. I see, well then let's start with the sandy worlds, Naruto said. Agreed, everyone said. So Jane, which world is the closest, Naruto asked. That would be Agrabah, Jane replied. Then we have our destination, Naruto said before turning to the computer and said Dika set a course to Agrabah. Right away, Dika said. Then they were on their way to the world. Naruto was heading to the training room and along the way he said Dika. Yes, Naruto, Dika said. Do you have any sword styles that requires 3 swords, Naruto asked. There is one in my database, but you should know it's not really a style, just a bunch of attacks, Dika said. That's fine, Naruto said as he entered the training room to see a man with green hair with 3 swords at his hip. Then he said, alright, let's begin. After some time the ship was approaching the world and Tifa, who was on the bridge with Kushina and Rukia, talking about Naruto when she said, looks like we are here. Looks like it, Kushina said as she looks out the window. Then she turns to Tifa and asks, so where is Naruto? He should know we have arrived. Naruto is in the training room learning how to use 3 swords, Dika said. I will go and let him know we are arriving, Kushina said, leaving the room, and the moment she did she said, now where is the training room? Then Dika gave her instructions to how to get there. Once Kushina was at the room, Dika said, please knock, Kushina, as Naruto is learning some dangerous techniques. Kushina then knocks. Inside the room, Naruto, who was holding 2 bakken and had one in his mouth, heard the knocking, stopped the training, then take the bakken out of his mouth and asked what's going on. Your mother is out to tell you something, Naruto, Dika said. Alright, cancel my training, Naruto said before walking out of the room and exited the room to see his mother, and he said, Kachan, what brings you here? I just came to let you know that we are arriving at Agrabah, Kushina said. Okay, let's get going, Naruto said. Then as they both was walking to the bridge he said, Dika, tell everyone to meet on the bridge. Right away, Dika said before announcing the meeting. When everyone was in the bridge, Naruto said, now that everything is here, we can make a plan on how to handle Agrabah. How about we go down in groups, that way we can gather information, Mariette suggested. Not a bad idea, Tifa said. All in favor, Naruto said with everyone raising their hands. Then he said, great. Then he turned to Dika and asked Dika, how many portals can you make here? I can make 4, but unfortunately there is a problem establishing the 4th portal, Dika said. What do you mean, Rukia asked. There seems to be something interfering with the portal, Dika said. You mean like the area is sealed off, Kushina asked. That's right, Dika said. Right, so now we know the number of portals. Now on to the teams, Naruto said. Well, I can stay here and look into the world, Jane said. Then that make this easy, 3 teams of 2, Naruto said. Now the question is who goes with who, Anastasia asked. Well, that solution is clear, we leave it to chance by drawing lots, Marinette said as she goes over to her station and grabs a cup with sticks inside. Naruto looks at the cup and asks, did you plan for this? Well, I thought it would be an easy way to choose the teams if you ever did this, Marinette replied. Well, it's a great idea, Naruto said as Marinette holds the cup out for everyone to take a stick. Then when everyone grabbed one, they held them up. Then the key bearer said, alright, it looks like it, me and Marinette, Kachan and Anastasia, and Tifa and Rukia. Then they headed to the tube room. Once everyone was in the room, Tifa asked, so who goes where? I have a portal set up, the pink tube to the abandoned house, the yellow one is to the back street of the shopping district, and the black tube is outside the entrance cave, but be warned it is nighttime in Agrabah, Dika said. Naruto thinks about it, then he said, me and Marinette will take the back street. Then he turns to Tifa and Rukia, then said, you two will take the house. Then he turned to his mother Anastasia and said, you two take the cave. Sound like a plan, Kushina said with everyone nodded in agreement. Then they each took the tube to their location. Kushina and Anastasia appeared in a wide area and they looked around and couldn't see anything, and they looked at each other and Kushina said, okay, where is this cave? Anastasia opened her mouth to say something, but the ground begins to shake. Then a lion's head made out of stone rose up from the ground and it opened its mouth. Then they walked up to the entrance and looked inside to see its tongue turn into stairs. Then Anastasia turns to Kushina and said, I think we just found the cave. I think you're right, Kushina said. Then they began to enter the cave. As the duo was about to enter, they were pushed back by a sudden gust of wind. Then as they sat up, they look at each other and Anastasia asked, did that come from inside the cave? Kushina opened her mouth to answer, but they heard a deep voice that came from the cave, who dares disturb my slumber? Once again both girls looked at each other, then they turned to the cave, and Kushina said it is I Kushina Kinwaichi. And I Anastasia Romanova Princess Anastasia said. Only one may enter, but know this only the diamond in the rough may truly enter the cave said. Anastasia turns to Kushina and asked what does that mean? It means anyone can enter, but only this diamond in the rough can go in without anything bad happening Kushina replied. Oh is that possible Anastasia said asked. Are you really asking that while we are standing in front of a cave that literally came out of the sand and can speak Kushina asked with a deep panned look. Thinking about the princess said I guess you're right. Right Kushina said then she turns to the cave and asked Great Cave of Wonder, may I ask a question? You may the cave said. Can you describe this diamond in the rough Kushina asked. One that knows hardships and does not fall into the darkness the cave said. Thank you we will be leaving because we are not worthy Kushina said. Very well the cave said before sinking back into the sand making a dune. Anastasia then looks at Kushina and asks so what was that about? Kushina opened her mouth to say something, but something caught her eye and she said out loud what's that? What's what Anastasia asked as she turns around only to see a golden glow heading towards them, then they quickly hide. Once the duo was hidden they saw the glow circle the dune where the cave was then it split and went into the dune, just as two horses arrived one looked like a bandit and the other one looked like a royal advisor with a parrot. Then the cave rose up from the sand they saw the bandit walked up to the cave then as he was about to enter the cave when it moved, then it said who dares disturb my slumber. They say the bandit speak but couldn't hear then they hear the cave speak again, no this only one may enter here, to his worth lies far within the diamond in the rough, then they saw the advisor usher the bandit to go into the cave, then the moment he entered the cave, it closed then, as it went back into the sand it said seek me out the diamond in the rough, then they saw the parrot come out of the sand then picked up something, then flew over to the advisor then once he was put whatever the bird retrieved there out of somewhere. Once the man was gone Kushina and Anastasia came out of hiding, and the latter said good thing you asked about the diamond in the rough how did you know anyway? Call it experience Kushina said. Is that because of your Kinwaichi training Anastasia asked. Yeah Kushina replied then she pulls out something that Jane had given the teams and said Jane can you hear me? Loud and clear what can I do you for Jane asked. Can you tell me where the closest town is Kushina asked. Looks like it's some distance from your location and it will take you until well into daytime if you start walking now Jane replied. Thanks Jane Kushina said before putting the communicator away and then turns to Anastasia and said you ready to get going? I am Anastasia said then they started to walk in the way the man rode off to. With Tifa and Rukia who appeared in the house then Tifa said well seeing as it is night might as well get some rest. That's an idea think you can first watch Rukia said asked. Sure can Tifa said then Rukia before going to sleep and Tifa stood watch. With Naruto and Marinette who appeared in the back alley, then Naruto said Marinette you go to sleep and get some rest I will look around to get the layout of the city, then he unseals some bedding for the miraculous guardian to use. You sure about that Naruto Marinette asked as she take the bedding. I am sure and if you're worried about some asshole taking advantage of you, then I will put a jinjutsu around you so that only those that know you are there can see you Naruto said. I appreciate that Naruto, but will you be okay not getting any sleep Marinette said. I will be fine thank you for worrying about me, Naruto said before going those so hand signs, then slamming them on the ground, then he said there now get some rest Marinette and I will be back when day breaks, Naruto said before going off running along the rooftops. When Naruto was gone Marinette sighed and said I don't know what to do Tiki. The Kwami of creation flew out of the purse and said about what Marinette. Ever since I had that dance with Naruto, I feel the same thing I did with Adrian, but it intensified Marinette said before getting change. Well by the sounds of it you are in love with the young keybearer Plag said as he also flew out of the purse. What but I barely know him Marinette said with a blush. And what about Adrian Tiki said getting Marinette blushing more. That's different, Marinette said before laying down and closing her eyes, getting the two Quemis to laugh. That's all folks. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original they can only destroy the heartless. Marinette was startled awake as she heard something and asked what going on. The two Quemis flew into view and Tiki said not sure. Naruto who was meditating as he still was learning Sage Mode, opened one of his eyes and said oh good you're awake. Yeah because of the commotion that's going on what is that anyway Marinette said. Most likely just as someone stealing something Naruto said while opening both eyes and looking at where the commotion was. Oh Marinette said wondering what the person was like to steal something, then she turned to Naruto and asked so what is the plan for today? Well apart from seeing if Yuzu or Karen is here find the world's maiden protester from my other side and his master, as well as seal the keyhole, and I have Kurama looking around the city for it, Naruto said. I see and what would you do while you are looking for those Marinette asked. Most likely look around and cause mayhem for those that deserve it, Naruto said. So you want to watch the commotion Marinette asked. I do, Naruto said before picking Marinette up bridal style, causing Marinette to go atomic red. Then Naruto jumps onto the closest roof and jumps across them. As soon as the duo got to where the commotion was, they saw a late teen jump of a building with a carpet and a monkey caught him and they went over a wall. Then Naruto said, well, that's something you see every day. What, a monkey helping something steal something? It was common in my world, but that was something, Marinette said, still red. Good to know, so let's see if they are okay, Naruto said before jumping onto the wall to see the boy give some bread to 2 orphans, then thought must be living on the street as well, or used to, as he knew what it's like living on the streets before his surrogate grandfather gave him his apartment. Then see the monkey debating whether or not to do the same before saying that was kind of you too. You getting the attention of the boy and monkey. Then Naruto jumps down, put Marinette on the ground. Thanks, you're not going to hand me over, are you? The boy said. Well, that all depends on what that was about, Naruto said as he points to the wall. The boy looks at the wall puzzled for a few moments before it dawned on him that Naruto was on about, then said, oh, that was because I stole the bread that I gave the kids. Okay, and why did you steal the bread? Marinette asked. To survive it hard growing up without any parents, the boy said. No need to tell me, Naruto said. You grew up without your parents too, the boy said. I did because my dad died on the night I was born and the man that my mother thought she could trust lied to her about me, and it was only a couple ago I met her for the first time and she feels guilty about leaving me, Naruto said. I never knew my father and my mother died when I was little, the boy said. I am sorry to hear that, Marinette said. It's okay, you both didn't know. Oh, my name is Aladdin said, then gestures to the monkey and said, and this here is my partner Abu, who lifts up the hat as a greeting. Well, it's nice to meet you both. I am Naruto and this is Marinette, Naruto said. Nice to meet you both, so what brings you to Agrabah if you don't mind, Aladdin said. Well, we are looks for 2 little girls, both a couple of years younger than me. One has black hair and the other has light blonde hair, and I heard that one of them might be around here and they are both fair-skinned, Naruto said. Aladdin thinks for a few minutes before saying sorry, but can help you as never met anyone like that around here, but I will keep an eye out for them. No worries, thanks for helping, Naruto said. Then he turns to face Marinette, but she was gone, and upon looking further around, sees her at a crowd and goes over to her with Aladdin following, and then asks what's going on. I have no idea, Marinette replied before they both looked out to the road. As the worlder was looking to see a man in fancy clothing riding a horse, then a big man with a bread said some far-off prince is on his way to the palace. Which mean another suitor for the princess, a tall man said. Thanks, Naruto said before he felt 2 bumps on his leg and looking down, sees the 2 kids that Aladdin gave his bread to ran past him and was heading for the horse, and he quickly said hey wait, but it was too late as they had spooked the horse. Once the rider calmed the horse he said, out of my way you filthy brats, and then he pulled his whip back and was about to strike the 2 kids. Seeing what the man was about to do, Naruto quickly did some hand signs, then said substitute jutsu and replace the girl and takes the whip instead. Then he said as he yanks the whip out of the man's hand, is that all you have? If known kids to whip harder than that. Do you have any idea who I am, boy? The man said. Naruto looks the man over a few times, then said some pompous asshole that can't seem to afford his manners, then throws the whip back at the man. Well, the boy went to his sister and they went to leave. The man growls, then rode next to Naruto and said I will show you some manners. Then he kicks him with all of his might, which sent Naruto into mud. The said there, now you are where you belong. Then he continues his ride toward the palace. Marinette goes over to Naruto and asks Naruto, are you okay? I'm fine though, I was just wondering which is more of an ass, the horse or the owner, Naruto said loud enough for the noble to hear. The nobleman stops and looks back toward Naruto and said, you are a worthless street rat, you were born as one and you will die as one, and your mother and father are most likely street rats as well. Well, better to be a street rat with compassion than some noble that only care about themselves, Naruto retorted as he gets up while the man growls. Then he begins to walk over to the man while he is saying, and another thing, I could care less what you call me, I've heard it all, but you make fun of those I care about, then there will be hell to pay. The man looks Naruto in the eyes and he froze in fear, then he stammers out, I have to get going, have an important meeting to get to. Then he quickly heads into the palace grounds and the gates shut behind him. And I hope the meeting goes badly, you asshole, Naruto shouted. Then he turns to Marinette and asks, so what do you want to do? Let's look for the others, Tifa and Rukia should be around here somewhere, Marinette replied. Naruto thinks about it then said alright, but went quiet as he sees a light brown haired girl looking over the 2 kids, then had a feeling that he knew her, but never seen her before. Deep inside Naruto's soul, Shiro and Kairi was watching what Naruto was seeing and was laughing about what just happened, and the hollow spirit said, man boss, you are just like the Ichigo. Kairi, who calmed down and saw Naruto looking at the girl, then she turned to Shiro and said, hey Shiro, is that who I think it is? Shiro then stopped laughing and looks up and then said with shock in his voice, well, I'll be it as Yuzu. Then he opens the link between him and Naruto then said, hey boss, that girl, it's Yuzu. In the real world, Naruto was watching the scene then heard Shiro say, hey boss, that's Yuzu. Oh, so that would explain the feeling I was having, Naruto said. Who and what are you on about, Naruto? Marinette asked. Naruto turns to Marinette and says, I was having a sense that I knew that girl over there, points to the girl, and then Shiro said that the girl over there is one of my new sisters. So do you want to go over there and explain what's going on, Marinette said. Naruto looks at Yuzu again, then shakes his head, then said, I don't think that would be a great idea. Why not, Marinette asked. Naruto turns his attention back to Marinette and said, if you had a brother who died protecting his loved ones, who would you like to hear that from, someone that is claiming to be your brother's incarnation or from someone you know and trust? Marinette thinks for a bit, then said, you're right. Naruto opens his mouth to say something, then he notices something in the crowd that was slowly dispersing, then said, and it looks like we won't have to wait long. Marinette opened her mouth to ask why, but decided to look at where the person that she was growing in love with and saw what he meant, then said, so what will you do? Well, I plan to stay nearby in case that need me, Naruto said. That's most likely the best choice, Marinette said. Then Naruto picks her up bridal style, gaining a blush before Naruto jumps up onto the roofs. Few minutes earlier, with Tifa and Rukia as the duo was walking around and talking, they see the main road gaining a crowd and Tifa walks up to a man and asks, excuse me, what's going on here? The man looks at Tifa and said, you're not from here, are? No, we are not. Now please answer our question, Rukia said. Well, the princess is of age and now nobles from near and far have come to take her hand in marriage, but none have, the man said. Then they saw the nobleman about strike some children that had ran into the road, then Naruto swapping with a girl, and then insult the noble before the noble kicked Naruto into some mud, then the blonde threatened the noble, then the noble went into the palace grounds, then they heard Naruto shout, and I hope the meeting goes badly, you asshole, then the two girls started to laugh. When the girls calmed down, Rukia said, I can see why Shiro did join with Naruto. I take it Ichigo didn't care about nobility, Tifa asked. Rukia shakes her head and says, no, he didn't. He beat my brother who was a noble because my brother said that he was going to kill me. And judging by what we just saw, Naruto will pick a fight with just about anyone within reason of cause, Tifa said. Yeah, anyway, let's meet up with them, Rukia said, and with a nod from the fighter they begin to walk over. As the two girls was walking up to the gates, Rukia looks to where the siblings are and stops dead and goes wide-eyed as she sees Yuzu, then mumbled Yuzu. Tifa hears this and looks to where the former Shinigami was looking to see the girl and asks, so that's Yuzu, which got a nod from Rukia. Then Tifa said, well, come on, let's go and get her. Then she grabs Rukia by her hand and pulls her to the girl. Then as they approach the girl, she said, Yuzu Kurosaki. Yuzu looks up to Tifa and with a sweet voice said, yes, can I help you? No, but I can help you, Tifa said. Yuzu looks at Tifa suspiciously, then asked, how can you help me? Finding your family, Tifa replied before stepping to the side so that Yuzu can properly see Rukia. Rukia, Yuzu shouted before tackling the former Shinigami into a hug, then after a few minutes, let's go, and said, if you're here, then what about Karen or Ichigo? We don't know where Karen is, and as for Ichigo, Rukia said before going quiet. What about Ichigo? Yuzu asked confused. Then there was silence and a somber atmosphere, then after a few minutes Yuzu got her the unspoken answer, then said as tears started to build up and run, no, please tell me it isn't true. Rukia walks up to Yuzu and hugs her and says, as much as I wish for it, Ichigo is gone, he sacrificed himself to save us. Then she pulls away and looks Yuzu in her eyes and said, but just because he is gone doesn't mean that he is dead. Yuzu wiped her tears and asked, what do you mean? As Ichigo coded me, you and Karen with his power to protect us from that was going on, and when that was done Ichigo's powers formed 5 artifacts and each one represents one of his powers, then they scattered across the worlds, Rukia said. How do you know that? Yuzu asked. Because I met someone that Shiro has deemed worthy of become an incarnation of Ichigo, Rukia replied. Are you certain about that? Yuzu asked. I think we will let you be the judge of that, seeing as he was the one mouthing off to the noble that was about to hit the kids that spooked his horse, Rukia said. Yuzu was shocked to hear that, then said as more tears fell from her eyes, so that's why I saw Ichigo while I was looking at the guy. That's right, and I see it as well, Rukia said. I am sure you're both right. Oh, and Yuzu, I am sure Naruto saw you as well, Tifa said. So Naruto is his name? Yuzu asked, and with a nod from Rukia and Tifa, the teen asked, so why didn't he come and greet me then? And how would he reply when asked how he knows your name? Tifa said. Oh, you're right, I would not have believed him, Yuzu replied looking down. I am positive that he wanted to meet one of his new little sisters, but he also knew that he wasn't the one that was meant to tell you, Ichigo, Rukia said, knowing how Naruto is even though she has known him for a few days. Tifa looks at Rukia and asks, so what do we do now? Well, of course we can leave Yuzu alone, so who about we go back to the ship and introduce her to Jane and show her pictures of the rest PF the team, Rukia said. Sounds good, as I am sure Naruto would like to put the Yuzu before anything else, Tifa said. Well, you have known him the longest, Rukia said before turning back to Yuzu and said, come on and we will take you of this world. Then they headed to the abandoned house and used the green portal to head back to the Astro megaship, all the while they were chatting. Meanwhile out at the main gates Anastasia and Kushina was walking into the city and Kushina said next time we do something like this, we aren't the one that has to walk all night to get to the nearest city. I wouldn't mind it as I was with Naruto Anastasia said not realizing she just said that out loud. Oh so you prefer my son's company over mine Kushina said. Upon getting asked that Anastasia's eyes went wide and she asked did I say that out loud? What do you think now answer my question Kushina replied. Well I never said that, but I may prefer Naruto over you the princess admittedly replied expecting Kushina to get angry at her. Kushina then laughed at the girls admitted then said well I can blame you Naruto did turn out alright, then her voice goes depressing as she said despite everything. Hey none of that Kushina you thought your son was dead and was told that by someone you thought you could trust and what would your son do if he sees you like this over something he doesn't hold against you Anastasia said. He would most likely try and beat me I would retaliate Kushina said. Right and he would also know that, but that won't stop him from trying though Anastasia said. You're right he is one stubborn teen Kushina said. Got that right and I wonder which side of the family he gets that from Anastasia said while looking at Kushina. Kushina opened her mouth to say something, but sees Rukia and Tifa and they was with a girl, then she shouted Rukia, Tifa, then she and Anastasia walked over to them, then asked as they were near enough so who is the girl? This is Yuzu Kushina Rukia replied then she turns Yuzu, then asked you know I was telling you about Naruto. Yeah, that he is my new big brother Yuzu replied. Right well the red-haired woman is Naruto's mother Rukia said. Yuzu turns to face Kushina and asks so does that you're going to be mine and Karen's new mother. Kushina smiles then kneels down, then said of course it does sweetie. Yeah Yuzu said before giving Kushina a hug which Kushina returned. Anastasia faces Tifa then asks so what was you doing before we spotted you? Well we were on our way back to the teleport circle to keep Yuzu safe, Tifa replied. Alright we might as well join you and meet Naruto some other time, Kushina said looking up at them. You're just saying that so you can spend some time with Yuzu aren't you Tifa said. Of course I am, and I don't think Naruto would mind Kushina said letting go of Yuzu standing up. You're properly right about that Kurama said. Fool a nine-tailed fox, and it's so cute Yuzu said before quick as lighting she was hugging the fox. But the Kurama said not sure how the girl grabbed her so quicky. Well then let's get going Rukia said, and with a nod from everyone they went to the house and teleported to the ship. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original they can only destroy the Heartless. When Kushina Rukia Tifa and Anastasia got back to the ship with Yuzu and Kurama, they were met by Jane who was in and control room and she said well how did it go? When me and Kushina was out at cave which turns out to be a sentient one and it said only the diamond in the rough can enter Anastasia replied. So what sort of diamond in the rough are we looking for Jane asked. One that knows the hardship of life but refused to fall into the darkness, Kushina replied. Sound like Naruto can enter Kurama said. That's what we think Anastasia said. Well there is nothing me and Rukia can report Tifa said. So what did you get up to here Jane Rukia asked. Right well you were looking around a grabba I found these Jane said as she placed a box on a counter. What is it Kushina asked as she lifted the top of the box to see a bunch watch-like device, A1, each one having a different color along the strap, then she turned to Jane and asked what are these things? From what Dika told me they are communicators Jane said. Nice so where did you find these Tifa asked. I found them in the storage Jane replied, then she noticed Yuzu and asked so who is this? This is one of Ichigo's little sisters and her name is Yuzu Tifa replied. Of well it's nice to meet you Yuzu Jane said. It's nice to meet you as well, Yuzu said with a small bow, then she turns to Rukia and asks so when can I meet my new brother? Soon as we are doing something important which involves those black thing that was after everyone back in our world Rukia said. Oh I understand and what about Mayamato Yuzu said. Right now we don't know her exact location, but we do have a clue where she might be so once we have done what we need to here we will be looking for Karen Rukia said. Really Yuzu asked. That's right and when Naruto became your new brother thanks to a portion of Ichigo's power, he told us that he wanted to find you Karen and Rukia before anything else Tifa said. Did he really Yuzu asked. He did Anya and Jane said at the same time. So what are you going to do now Yuzu asked. Well right now we put you into a room, then we will be having a meeting while we take care of thing on this world, Kushina said, before leading the preteen to a room, before having a meeting about what to do while they were at the world, while they were looking for the world's maiden in the keyhole. Meanwhile back in the grabba Naruto and Marinette was walking around and exploring the world before they noticed the sun was setting, then they headed to an abandoned building to hear the end of a song, then they heard someone above them say hey aren't you the guy that stood up to that prince this morning? Upon looking up to see the boy that gave his stolen bread to the kid Naruto saved and Naruto said yeah, I am and you're the boy that gave the bread you stole to the kids I saved. The boy was shocked to hear that then said you're not going to turn me over are you? Naruto shakes his head then said if I wanted to die that I would have done so this morning. Yeah, right, if the guards can't catches me, what makes you think you can? The boy replied with a monkey blowing raspberry at them. I know I would have caught you because I have something that they don't, Naruto replied. You do? What is it? The boy asked. I have the skills to catch you, Naruto said with confidence. Upon hearing the confidence in Naruto's voice, the boy thought, could he really catch me? Then goes on to say, so what are you doing? Well, we both just got into the city and decided to go on a date by doing some sightseeing, and now we are looking for some place to rest. Will we wait for the rest of our crew to show up? Marinette replied. We were on a date, Naruto whispered. Well, what would you call a male and a female together in a new city while going around and taking in the sights? Marinette teased. Well, you are right, so does this mean I get a goodbye kiss? Naruto teased back, making Marinette go beet red. I see. Well, if you two both behave, I can let you both stay here as I do seem to owe you if what you say is true, plus I have a view that would make your date end perfectly, the boy said before telling them how to get up there. Once the duo got up to the apartment, they noticed it was the one that they teleported into. Then Marinette whispered, Naruto, isn't this? Naruto, knowing what she was going to say, whispered, you are right, it is the room we teleported into. Then he turns to the boy who seemed to taking care of a girl, and he thought is that his girlfriend, then said, thanks for this, I am Naruto, and this is my recently added girlfriend Marinette, seeing as she pointed out that she and I just had a date. It's okay, I am Aladdin, and this is my girlfriend Sadira, Aladdin said before going back to look after the girl. Then how come he doesn't seem to know about the portal? Marinette whispered. It could be only those that knows about the other worlds can see the portals, Naruto said. He is right, Marinette, otherwise the stories you know back in your world, well, it was still around, Tiki said as Bee pokes her head out of her hiding spot. Naruto goes over to Aladdin and asks, so what wrong with her? I don't know, and I don't have the money to get her the help she needs, Aladdin said. Then he takes a deep sigh and said, and recently whenever she is on a situation that she isn't comfortable in, the sand will react. Upon hearing this, Naruto looks at the girl and thought, could she be like Gaara's sand user, and the tailed beast helped him when he manifested it, so maybe he or Bachan might help. Then he said, I might know some people that might help her, but you will have to give us a few days. If you can help, that's great, Aladdin said, which Naruto could see hope in his eyes. Anyway, where is this view that would make the perfect ending to our date? Naruto asked. Right here, the boy said as he gestures to the big hole in the building where you can see the whole palace in the night sky. Wow, you were right, it is a great way to end our date, Marinette said as she and Naruto took a seat and looked out at the view, and it wasn't long for the duo to fall asleep with Naruto's arms around Marinette and gave her a kiss goodnight. The next morning, Naruto woke up with Marinette snuggled into his chest, then said as he gently shook her, Marinette, it's time to wake up as we need to report back with everyone. Okay, I am up, Marinette groaned as she rubbed her eyes, then she went bright red as realized how she slept, then she rushes out of the room to get ready for the day. Once both was ready to go, Marinette said with a blush, do you mind as I report alone, which got a confused look from Naruto. Then she said, I need some girl talk, also you did tell Aladdin that you will be getting someone that can help his girlfriend, this way you can stay and find the world maiden in the keyhole. Oh yeah, I did, so head back to Traverse Town and get me Gaara and Tsunade, Naruto said. Got it, Marinette said before Naruto walks out of the house to look for the maiden and see if he can get any clues on the keyhole while she uses the portal to get back to the ship. A little while later, Naruto was sitting on a roof above the market training in his sage mode as his hair was more wild and had tiger stripes on his arms and face when he noticed a female with a different aura than the other residents of the world, so he opened which was glowing aqua blue color and up to look for her, and once he spots her, he sees she is trying to hide her identity looking around. Then Naruto noticed the clothing she had underneath her rage cloth, then thinks she has to be a noble, judging by the quality of her clothing, then she sees a child trying to reach for an apple. As the girl was approached the child, he heard her say, oh you poor thing, you must be hungry, then she reached for an apple and gave it to the child who ran off. As the girl was about to walk off, the owner came round and said hope you was going to pay for that. Naruto, who has been watching the event, knows something bad will happen soon, so he quickly cancels his sage mode as he jumps down and bumps into the guy and then said sorry about that. Then he asked what seems to be going on here. Well, this girl is a thief, the stall keeper said. Oh, and what did she stole? Naruto asked. An apple, Naruto said with a disappointed look and said you are throwing a fit over a funking apple. Then he took a deep breath to calm down, then said then how about I pay for it for the pretty lady, then hands the stall keeper the money for it. Well 10, you are free to go now, the man said, letting go of the girl's arm, then goes back to his stall. Thank you for your help, the girl said. Think nothing of it, I just did what I want to do, plus I knew he was going to do something to harm you, so I just went through the less confrontational way, Naruto said. Even if you used your own money, which I would repay when I return home, the girl said. Naruto just waved it off, then said who said it was my money? The girl opens her mouth to say something when all of a sudden, they hear the voice of the stall keeper shout, get back here you little thieves, but before anyone could do anything, Naruto throw a few smoke bombs on the ground, then pick the girl up bridal style Shunshined away. Once the two was safe, Naruto put the girl down and the girl said thank you for that. Naruto turns to face the girl, then said think nothing of it, my name is Naruto by the way. It nice to meet you Naruto, my name is Jasmine, Jasmine said. So who are you seeing, as you looked confused when he said about paying. I would rather not talk about, Jasmine said. Ah, noble, tired of the noble lifestyle, don't see too many of them, Naruto said. How did you know I was a noble, Jasmine asked, shocked that he figured her out. You might be hiding them, but I can see your jewelry as well as your clothing, and they are way too fancy to belong to a commoner, Naruto said. You're observant, Jasmine said. Thank you, Naruto said. Jasmine chuckled a little, then said, so what was that about back there? Well, because of his attitude I decided to borrow this, Naruto said as he lazily tosses a pouch full of coins. Wait, isn't that, Jasmine began to ask. Do you really want to know, Naruto said. Fair enough, Jasmine said. But now then, let's have a good time around here, Naruto said before grabbing Jasmine's hand, and they walked down the walkway. As Naruto and Jasmine walked away, they were unaware that was being watched by Kurama, who said to herself, looks like Naruto has gained another mate, now gotta wait till he is alone before I can give him the communicator. Then she started to jump across the rooftops to keep an eye on Naruto. Earlier with Marinette. Marinette, who returned to the ship, said, hello Dika, where is everyone? Everyone is waiting for you and Naruto in the control room, Dika said. That's great, make thing easier, Marinette said as he headed to the control room. When Marinette got to the control room, she found everyone was already there with Kurama on a seat sitting, then the fox said, so where's Naruto? Well, we decided to split up as we slept at a guy's apartment last night and he is looking after his sick girlfriend who seems to be able to manipulate the sand around her, Marinette said. I get it, and he want us to go back to Traverse Town and get someone to help her, Kushina said. Right, someone named Gaara and Tsunade, Marinette said. Well, Tsunade will help out, but I have no idea on who Gaara is, Kushina said. He is the red-haired boy that holds the one-tailed beast and also being able to manipulate sand, so I get why he asked for him as well, Kurama said. Right, as well as staying behind to look for the keyhole, as the maiden Tifa said. So who stays behind to make sure he doesn't get into too much trouble, Anastasia asked. I will stay, Tifa said. So will I, Kurama said. So what do we about Yuzu, Kushina asked. She can stay on the ship until you sort out a permanent residence in Traverse Town or until you find Karen, whichever comes last, Jane said, which everyone agreed to. So we all know what we are doing, let's get going, Tifa said. Then she and Kurama headed to the tubes. As Tifa and Kurama walked into the tube room, Jane ran in and said, wait a sec, you need to take this with you, and holds up a communicator. Oh right, forgot that Naruto doesn't have a communicator, Tifa said as she takes the device. Then she and Kurama went down the tube that took them to the warehouse. I have confirmed that both Tifa and Kurama have successfully teleported to Agrabah, Dika said. Alright, let's get going, Marinette said. The Naruto's clones will be able to use the Keyblade, but they aren't as effective as the original, they can only destroy the Heartless. Naruto and Jasmine spent the whole day together, and as the sun was beginning to set, they both just arrived at Aladdin's home when Naruto said, make yourself comfortable, I need to check something. Then he heads to Sadira's room to make sure she was alright. Thanks, Jasmine said before looking around. Once Naruto re-entered the room, they both decided to sit where he and Marinette was the night before, when Jasmine said, wow, that is a great view of the palace, before subconsciously placing her head on Naruto's shoulder. I know it is, gotta hand it to the person that live here, Naruto said. When Aladdin came home and she the new girl and asked, so who's the new girl? Hey, Aladdin, this is Jasmine, so how is Sadira doing today? Naruto replied. Not too well and is getting worse slightly each day that goes by, Aladdin said sadly while looking into his room before turning to Jasmine and said, well, it's nice to meet you, Jasmine, I am Aladdin. Nice to meet you, Aladdin, Jasmine replied. So where is the one you had last night? Aladdin said. Hopefully getting people that can help Sadira so she might show up late tomorrow or the day after, Naruto said. Aladdin was gobsmacked when he heard this and said, why are you doing this for a complete stranger? It's the right thing to do and I know how it's like to be treated badly because of something you have no control over, and I refuse to become what they said I was, Naruto replied. What was your life like? Aladdin asked. If you don't want nightmare, leave my past, where is it? Naruto said. It can't be that bad, can it? Jasmine asked. Naruto was about to reply by lying to them when suddenly Kurama appeared and said, trust me lady, up until about a year ago all Naruto knew, with the exception of a few people, was hate, loneliness, and was also attacked multiple times a day. The sudden voice made the two other people look around for the voice when she said, down here. Both Aladdin and Jasmine both looked to see Kurama in her multi-tailed glory, and Aladdin said, wait, when was there a multi-tailed animal in Agrabah? Since Naruto showed up, I am his companion, like you have a monkey as yours, Kurama said. I take it Marinette told you what going on, Naruto said. That's right, she and the other are on their way to get Tsunade and Gaara, although Tifa is somewhere around to make sure you didn't get into too much trouble, Kurama said. Is that the two you told him about? Jasmine said. It is Tsunade is the best medic I know, and Gaara has the same ability as Sandria, Naruto said. Really, Aladdin said. That's right, and I helped them as well because Gaara was like me. Well, Tsunade was in her own pit of despair, Naruto said as he remembers how the two was like when he first met them. Then he turns to his fox companion and asks, so what brings you round here anyway? Kurama opened Hour's mouth to say something when suddenly they heard someone say, there you are. Everyone looked to the stairs to see 3 guards walking up them, and both Aladdin and Jasmine said, they are after me. Then they looked at each other and asked, they are after you. Father must have sent them to find me, Jasmine said. Naruto looks at Aladdin and Jasmine, then did a few hand signs, then said Jinjutsu. Escape room. Then the guards suddenly slowed down, then Naruto said, there, that ought to give us time. Then he went over to Sandria's room and closed, then opened his hand, and a puff-od smoked, and an ink pot and ink brush appeared in it. Then with brush, he drew 2 symbols on the door, then he added chakra to them. Then the symbols glowed. Then he said, there, that should keep her safe for now. Then he rushed over to Jasmine and picked her up bridal style, then he and Aladdin jumped out the hole. As the group landed, they ran out the door only to run into someone who said as he picked Aladdin up, well, don't we just keep running into each other, don't we, street rat? Knowing what Aladdin was about to do, Naruto snuck up behind Jasmine with a kunai in hand and whispered, I am sorry for what I am about to do, but don't worry, I won't actually do it. Then pulls her robe down, revealing her face, and placed the kunai to her neck, then said, alright you lot, if you want this noble alive, release him now, and you can take me for kidnapping her. The head guard looked at Naruto, then said, Princess Jasmine, shocking both Naruto and Aladdin. Then he releases Aladdin. Wait, you're a princess? Naruto asked while looking at Jasmine. Once Aladdin was over his shock, then he turned to Naruto and asked, what are you doing? Doesn't matter now, get your monkey and get out of here, Naruto said. Then Aladdin does what he was told to do. Then once Naruto knew Aladdin was gone, he said, well, a deal is a deal. Then he releases Jasmine and gets on his knees. Once Naruto was on his knees, the head guard said, well, that's something you don't see every day. Then he turns to his men and said, well, what are you waiting for now, get him. Then to Naruto, you will be going to the dungeon for what you have done. Don't care, Naruto said as he was getting rough around as they tied him up. Once Naruto was tied up, the leader said, alright, let's return. But sir, what about the street rat? One of the guard asked. There is no point as we don't know where he went, plus this one here made a deal with us and he held his end of the bargain, so I must honor my end of it, the leader said. Then they left the area. Up on the roof stood Aladdin, who watched the guard take his new friend and said to Abu, who was on his shoulder, what am I going to do, Abu? For starters, don't worry about Naruto, Kurama said as she walked up next to Aladdin watching Naruto get taken away. But why did he do what he did, Aladdin asked. Because unlike him you have something important to do and Naruto will not let anything stop you from doing that, Kurama said. Right, Sandia, after all who else would look after her, Aladdin said. Right, and Naruto would do what he did over and over again, Kurama said. No, well, he was jealous of people like that, but he didn't hate them for something he wished he had. So what did he put on Sandria's door anyway, Aladdin asked. Seals, one to lock the door so no one can use your girlfriend to get to you while this is going on, and the other one is a stasis seal, Kurama replied. Okay, so how can Yo unlock the room, Aladdin asked. Just by adding chakra into it, Kurama said. Okay, so what do we do until your friends return, Aladdin asked. Don't know, what do you think we should do, Tifa, Kurama said as Tifa walked up. Well, we can make sure that Naruto doesn't get into too much trouble well anymore than he already is, Tifa replied. Then she turned to Aladdin and sighed, you better find a place to hide just in case they come back, me and Kurama will look after Naruto. You sure, Aladdin asked. We are, and don't worry, we will find you when our team returns, Tifa said. Right, and thanks for all your help, Aladdin said before walking away. Once Aladdin was gone, Tifa looks at Kurama and asks, so have you given him the communicator? Kurama shakes her head and says, I was about to when suddenly the guard came and messed it up and you saw the commotion. Yeah, but at least he helped Sandria out with everything that is going on, Tifa said. Then she asked, do you think something is going on, seeing as I think he has been doing this for a while, yet they haven't found him until today? Wouldn't be surprised, and I think it has something to do with the cave, Kurama said. You might be right because of this diamond in the rough, Tifa said. Then she asked, so what do we do until Naruto does something to get out? Well, we could find out who it was behind the situation, Kurama said, and with a nod they left the area. Once the group was at the palace, Naruto was still being led to the dungeon and with a quick glance at Jasmine and asked, so Haim, when can I see you again? What does Haim mean and when do you think, Jasmine asked said. Well, Haim said my tongue for princess and used to one special female friend, and seeing as you and I had a wonderful time today, then there is the fact that you are a princess too, it seemed fitting. Also, I can be in your room within 10 minutes of being put in the dungeon if you want, Naruto replied. Jasmine blushed at the innocent statement from the red-haired boy that said, and what make you think I want that? Don't know, thought you might want me to keep you company, Naruto said. Alright, to the dungeon with you, the head guard said as the guards dragged Naruto away. As the guard took Naruto away, he said, "Hey, no need to be so pushy. If you want your ass kicked that badly, I will be more than happy to comply." "Do you have to be so rough with him?" Jasmine asked. "Well, he did threaten you," the head guard replied. "And he wasn't going to harm me, just wanted to his friend out of harm's way," Jasmine said. "Well, either way we were told to get the street rat by Jafer," the head guard said before following his fellow guards. "So I need to have a word with Jafer," Jasmine said before walking away. As soon as the princess spotted a tall, bony, middle-aged man dressed in extravagant clothing, with a golden, ruby-eyed, cobra-headed staff, he also has a twisted black goatee and a faint mustache, as well as grey eyeliner, and he was facing a wall, and she said as she walked over to him, "There you are, Jafer." The man, now known as Jafer, quickly turned to face the princess and said as he bowed, "Oh princess, what can I do for you?" "Why did you send the guard to a random place today?" Jasmine asked. "Oh, I thought you was kidnapped, so I have been doing everything in my power to find you," Jafer replied. "Well, I ran off on my own and the boy that in the dungeon helped me out and kept me safe all day," Jasmine said. "Oh my, if I had known that, then I wouldn't have ordered his execution done immediately by beheading," Jafer said. "What? Oh no," Jasmine said as she sat down. Jafer walks behind Jasmine and said, "I am so sorry, princess." Jasmine just looks at him and said in a whisper, "How could you?" before running out of the room crying. Later that night, Jasmine was by a fountain crying when a tiger came up next to her and then rubs his head against her in a comforting manner. She said as she looks up, "Oh Raja, it's all my fault. If I hadn't ran away, then he might still be alive." She hugs the tiger, who in turns puts a paw around her for a few moments. They stayed like that before Raja became alert and looked in the direction of some bushes, and the princess asks, she wipes her tears away. The tiger didn't make a single sound in response as he just crouched down and began to stalk a bush that seemed to move every now and then. Once he was close enough, he pounced at it. Once he was on the other side, he had something pined. Then Jasmine heard a familiar voice, "Will you let me go, you oversized cat?" Jasmine walked over to see Kurama under one of Raja's paw, then said, "Rajag, release her." Once the tiger did as instructed, she turns to the kitsune and she asks, "Aren't you Naruto's pet?" Kurama turns and looks at the princess and said, "Well, that's one way of putting it, but I prefer companion." "Right, all for what it's worth, I am sorry," Jasmine said. Kurama looks at Jasmine confused, then asked, "Why are you sorry?" "Because of what I did today. Naruto was beheaded," Jasmine said with a sad tone. Kurama just looked at Jasmine for a few moments before bursting out laughing. Then the princess asked, "What are you laughing at? This isn't the time for it." Kurama calmed down a bit before looking at the princess, then said, "I am laughing because if that was true, then you wouldn't be looking at me right this minute, or I would be at my true size. Well, for starters, I am not a proper being. I am one that is made from a power source known as chakra, something Naruto's kind of humans can use to do unimaginable things, one of which is sealing creature like me into humans, turning them into Jinchuriki or human sacrifice," Kurama said. "And you were sealed into Naruto, right?" Jasmine said. Kurama looks down and said, "I was, which was the reason he had suffered as much as he did." "And I take it because of this seal you and he are connected?" Jasmine asked. "You are one smart princess," Kurama said. Then she said, "But one day there was a blue water-like entity entered the seal, and it expelled me by making me this cute powerless form, and a jewel that when used can turn me back to my full glory," Kurama said. "I get it now, so you're saying if he died the seal would take you to the afterlife with Naruto, or because of this entity you will get your power back," Jasmine said. "As I said, you are a smart princess," Kurama said. As Kurama was cheering up Jasmine, Naruto was in the dungeon in a meditative position to become the White Tiger Sage when he heard someone say, "What are you doing, boy?" Naruto looks at to see a silhouette of a man, then he said, "Nothing important, so what bring you to my love home?" The man comes out of the shadow to reveal to be an old skinny man with a hunched back and used a walking stick and said, ignoring the question, "Tell me, boy, what do you seek?" Naruto thinks for a moment, then said, "My guess is whatever fancies me." "So what would you say if I told you I know a place that you might like?" the old man said. "Well, right now I have nothing better to do other, so old man, tell me what you know," Naruto said. "There is a cave, boy, a cave of wonders," the old man said as he done a gesture to empathize the wonder. Then he reached into his rage clothing as he said, "Filled with treasures beyond your wildest dreams." Could that be the last location that Deku located to? Couldn't link a portal, Naruto thought. Then he looks at the old man and said, "What are you after, seeing as I don't think you are telling me all this out of your heart?" "I need a good pair of legs and a strong back to get me there, and then we can split the treasure between you and me," the old man said. Naruto thinks about it, then said, "Well, sound like fun, but how are we going to get there, seeing as we are trapped in here and the cave is out there, unless you know a way out of here?" The man smiled and went over to a wall and said, "I see you know that not all is as it seems." Then, with his cane, push a bit of the wall to reveal a secret tunnel. "Trust me, I was taught to not take everything at face value," Naruto said as he followed the old man down the tunnel. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.